Welcome to Raw Machines, a journey into some of the most remarkable working processes around the world. Today we travel to Sobernheim to follow craftsmen who quietly preserve the traditional craft of slate roofing. This story reveals a lasting relationship between people, natural materials, and professional knowledge passed down through generations, where every hammer strike carries the memory of place and time. Let's begin. Set in the Nahe Valley, the town of Sobernheim is shaped by the central uplands, rising to 400 meters. Over 650 years, it has preserved a traditional urban structure and enduring local crafts. Under harsh climatic conditions, and with abundant natural stone, slate emerged as the dominant roofing material. From this context, developed the craft of slate roofing, a specialized trade closely linked to Sobernheim's building history and architectural identity. Beyond the floodplain of the Nachtigall Valley lies the Rhineland-Palatinate Open Air Museum, where rural architectural heritage is preserved through the reconstruction of village-based structures, safeguarding traditional materials, building methods, and craft techniques from the past. Located on elevated ground, the Hunsrück-Nahe village within the museum is composed of historic buildings relocated from across the region. At its center stands an Einhaus, a horizontally divided house type, dating to the final third of the 19th century and originally from Bickenbach. Within the museum, the house has been faithfully reconstructed with slate cladding on its two weather-exposed sides. This was not an aesthetic choice, but an adaptive solution of upland architecture, where timber-framed walls were commonly protected with slate against wind and rain, particularly in the Hunsrück, a region rich in slate deposits. The work begins by identifying the surfaces most exposed to harsh weather, the northwest gable and the southwest-facing facade. These areas require protection with a durable slate cladding. Next, the slate roofer erects scaffolding along the long side of the building. On the threshing floor of the barn, slates delivered from the quarry are stockpiled, having already undergone initial splitting and rough preparation. As the work progresses, the stone is moved in stacks to the working area in front of the house. At the work site, the slates are sorted and marked on a dedicated marking table. Depending on the type, different templates are used, and the outlines are scored with a nail. The decorative slates prepared here include round pieces, pointed pieces, and cross-shaped tiles. After being sorted by size and thickness, the roofing slates are checked with a measuring gauge to ensure a consistent laying rhythm. On this basis, the master craftsman begins shaping the stones, particularly those intended for decorative patterns, following the pre-marked lines. The cutting work is carried out on the Haubrücke, a slender metal cutting anvil fixed to a four-legged wooden frame that also serves as a working seat. The edge to be removed is placed against the outer rim of the anvil to provide leverage for the cut. Using a slate hammer, the lie hammer, The craftsman strikes with controlled blows from the inside outward, trimming the edges and punching nail holes. This technique allows precise shaping without fracturing the stone. During shaping, waste stone is set aside. In the past, such fragments were reused for road repairs or dry stone walls, reflecting the careful and economical use of materials in traditional rural society. The finished slates are then sorted by template and shape and laid out ready for installation, ensuring continuity and uniformity across the building envelope.
Bringen wir noch ein paar von der spitz gezeichnete Laie. Was hier brauchst du dann?
Ich brauche noch 2 Spitze.
Spitze oder Runde?
Nee, Runde brauche ich 45 Stück gerne von der Runde. Ich habe ungefähr 5 Reihen.
Ecker, draht ein paar Rundbleche und nimm ein paar Spitzen mit. So. Draht jeder Wolfgang mal mit. Wolfgang, brauchst du auch noch von der Spitzschablone nicht mal mit Zacke?
Once shaped, the slates are lifted onto the scaffolding for wall cladding. A wooden backing is installed on the timber frame to provide a secure surface for nailing. Cladding begins between corner posts and windows, using cross-shaped slates with serrated tips facing downward to ensure water runoff. Fixed with 2 broad-headed nails and laid in overlapping courses, the slates form the familiar fish scale pattern. At the corners, wider slates seal the edges of the posts. Properly installed, slate becomes a durable protective skin for timber-framed buildings exposed to wind and rain in the central uplands. To prevent rainwater from penetrating the structure, slender serrated battens are installed along edges and joints, sealing corners and window recesses. The slate cladding thus forms a continuous protective envelope around the timber-framed wall. The aesthetic value of the slate surface arises directly from its function. Overlapping courses not only provide weather protection, but also create a steady visual rhythm that harmonizes with the timber structure. The finishing work is carried out by a team of 5 slate roofers, working in close coordination to ensure precision and consistency across the entire wall surface. With only a few small sections remaining between the central windows, the facade cladding, also the entrance side, is nearly complete. On the scaffolding, a craftsman continues laying new rows of slate, maintaining continuity with the finished areas. To keep each course aligned and weather tight, the overlap is set using a measuring rule, hammer, and batten. Instead of traditional chalk lines, horizontal guides are scored directly onto the slate, while vertical edges are marked in pencil to determine the size of the border pieces. Stone adjustments are made directly on the scaffolding using a metal support fixed to the wooden backing. Excess material is trimmed away so the slates around window recesses sit flush, avoiding localized thickness. Nails are carried in a pouch at the worker's waist. Once hand-forged, slate nails are now galvanized industrial products. The durability of the cladding depends on their quality and placement, holding each slate securely, preventing water ingress, and keeping the surface stable in strong winds. Where earlier sections were clad with cross-shaped slates, this area is defined by rounded patterns. The change reveals that slate cladding serves not only as protection, but also as a form of shaping with its own visual language, extending from geometric forms to symbolic motifs. At the house in Bickenbach, a section of rubble wall in the stable, between the living quarters and the barn, is left unclad to accommodate a rosette, with the lower edge already covered to form a base. The rosette is composed of long, pointed slates arranged radially and overlapped along one edge. Each piece is measured and shaped on site. Wider slates require step-by-step working to prevent breakage. The final slate overlaps its neighbors, completing the circle. Following the same principle, craftsmen also create other decorative forms such as eagles, doves, or professional emblems, details that combine technical skill with the identity of both the maker and the building. At the center of the rosette, a small boss made from circular slate pieces, deliberately roughened at the edges and fixed with nails, projects slightly from the wall like a relief. On either side appear the initials J and B, marking the craftsman's name, while the slate courses above are laid tightly up to the rosette for rain protection. Creating such ornamentation demands refined manual skill rather than physical strength. The roofer controls each blow with a slate hammer hanging at the hip. Although often commissioned by the homeowner, the final form bears the unmistakable mark of the craftsman's hand, turning the slate-clad facade into both a protective surface and an expression of personal identity and professional mastery. The slate cladding of the weather-exposed surfaces marks one of the final and most significant stages, where the skill of the slate roofer is most clearly demonstrated in the restoration of the Bickenbash house at the museum. Under the harsh climatic conditions of the Hunsrück region, the techniques of slate roofing and cladding serve not only to protect the building, but also to embody a traditional craft refined over many generations. Through this structure, slate roofing emerges as a living testament to technical knowledge, labor-based aesthetics, and professional identity, a craft heritage preserved and conveyed within the museum setting. Looking back over the entire journey, from the geographical setting of Sobernheim and the architectural structure of the Hunsrück region, to each stage of preparation, shaping, and installation of the slate cladding, it becomes clear that slate roofing is not an isolated building technique, but a complete system of construction knowledge shaped by long-term adaptation between people, material, and the natural environment. In the hilly terrain and harsh climate of central Germany's uplands, slate was chosen not merely because it was locally available, but for its technical properties: effective water shedding, durability against wind and rain, and flexibility in shaping. From this context emerged a specialized craft, closely tied to timber-framed architecture and traditional ways of organizing living space. Each operation, from sorting slate and measuring overlaps to hand-shaping, nailing, and finishing, reveals a coherent technical logic grounded in knowledge passed down through generations. Precision is essential, as even minor deviations can compromise weatherproofing and long-term durability. Slate roofing is therefore a craft of control, rhythm, and skilled tactile judgment. Its aesthetic value does not arise from applied ornament, but directly from function. The rhythm of the courses, the method of overlapping, the treatment of edges, and details such as rosettes all follow the logic of construction, where form and function merge into a restrained yet expressive architectural language. In a modern context, where many traditional building practices are fading, slate roofing endures as a living craft heritage. Preserving it means safeguarding not only architecture, but also technical knowledge, working rhythms, and the ways people once built in balance with their environment across generations. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this story. If you enjoy videos like this, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future stories. This is Raw Machines. Thank you, and see you next time.